Hey everybody, so today I'm going to be making good on my promise that I made in November before 2024 even started. And that promise was that I was going to start a series on this channel where I would break down, explain, and interpret passages of the Bible for my viewers. And the time has come for me to finally start the series. Now, I'm going to start it out of order because I was trying to figure out for months how I would approach this, where I would start, what passage would be the best starting point. And I couldn't come to a conclusion of what the best passage would be, so I put it off for a while, a long while. But I finally decided that I would start out of order, so I apologize for that, and I would just do it as I found interpretations and as I was able to interpret things on my own. I would just make the series and update it. And so that is going to unfortunately result in it being chronologically out of sync completely. But like I said, I figured it's better to do it that way and to at least have something in this series than to not have anything at all. So today we're going to be starting in Matthew chapter 13, specifically with the parable of the mustard seed. Now, if you are not familiar with what parables are, they are stories that Jesus tells in the Gospels to convey lessons, teach truths, teach morality, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes they are prophetic, sometimes they are not. The one that we are going to be interpreting today is, and I will explain how that is, but I figured that it would be better to read this entire chapter in context, or at least the context that leads up to the mustard seed parable, because it is going to be necessary to understand the parable itself. So let's get started. Let's do that.
Speech mode talk. Heading 13. That same day Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Two such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat in it while all the people stood on the shore. 3. Then he told them many things in parables, saying, A farmer went out to sow his seed. 4. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. 5. Some fell on.
So, as we can already see, he's starting the chapter with a different parable called the parable of the sower. And he's going to be using similar imagery in the mustard seed parable, the birds and the seeds, and he's going to explain what that means if we keep reading. He's going to explain what the seeds and all those things symbolize.
Rocky places where it did not have much soil, it sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. 6. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered because they had no root. 7. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. 8. Still other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop 160 or 30 times what was sown. 9. Whoever has ears, let them hear. 10. The disciples came to him and asked, Why do you speak to the people in parables? 11. He replied, Because the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them. 12. Whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. 13. This is why I speak to them in parables. Though seeing they do not see, though hearing they do not hear or understand. 14. In them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah. You will be ever hearing but never understanding. You will be ever seeing but never perceiving. 15. For this people's heart has become calloused. They hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and turn, and I would heal them. Linka. 16. But blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. 17. For truly I tell you, many prophets and righteous people longed to see what you see but did not see it, and to hear what you hear but did not hear it.
So he is about to explain, after explaining why he talks this way, he's going to explain what the sower parable means, and it's going to be relevant to our parable that we're going to analyze.
18. Listen then to what the parable of the sower means. 19. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in there.
So if you read and you were paying attention, you would have noticed that the birds in that last parable are the forces that come and snatch away the seeds. So, as he's explaining here, the birds are symbolic for the enemy, the evil ones who are enemies of the word.
Heart. This is the seed sown along the path. 20. The seed falling on rocky ground refers to someone who hears the word and at once receives it with joy. 21. But since they have no root, they last only a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away. 22. The seed falling among the thorns refers to someone who hears the word, but the worries of his life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, making it unfruitful. 23. But the seed falling on good soil refers to someone who hears the word and understands it. This is the one who produces a crop yielding 160 or 30 times what was sown.
So this parable, one about the sower, is talking about different types of Christians, different kinds of people who come to believe but end up leaving, or their faith isn't as strong, or their faith actually is strong and they actually understand. It's very interesting, and it's very. People should really pay attention to that, because you don't want to be the first couple.
Heading level 3, the parable of the weeds.
So this one, I guess we'll read it for context, but it's more of the same.
24. Jesus told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. 25. But while everyone was sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went.
Oh yeah, so the seed symbolism, we have it again.
Away. 26. When the wheat sprouted and formed heads, then the weeds also appeared.
Notice we don't have the birds this time. They're going to show up in the next one. And again, the birds symbolize the forces of evil. Keep that in mind, because that's going to be relevant for the explanation of the mustard seed parable.
27. The younger servants came to him and said, Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then did the weeds come from? 28. An enemy did this, he replied.
So this one, he's talking about how even if you are trying to grow your faith, somebody can come along and try to mess that up.
The servants asked him, Do you want us to go and pull them up? 29. No, he answered, because while you are pulling the weeds, you may uproot the wheat with them. 30. Let both grow together until the harvest. At that time I will tell the harvesters, First collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned. Then gather the wheat and bring it into my barn.
Now,
Heading level 3, the parables of the mustard seed and the yeast.
We've arrived to the one that we are going to be interpreting and we're going to be talking about, but I want you to notice that if you read this entire chapter, you will see that Jesus explains the majority of these parables. He explains what they mean, what the symbolism is. But this one about the mustard seed, we're going to read it because it's pretty short.
31. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field. 32. Though it is the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds come and perch in its branches.
So there will not be an explanation for this one in the rest of this chapter. And this chapter has like 50 or so verses. The reason there will not be an explanation is because at the beginning of this chapter, remember, this is supposed to be a continuous story. At the beginning of this part of the story, he already told people what seeds and birds symbolize. So this refutes the idea that some have put forward that you can take this mustard seed parable and you can decontextualize it and you can understand its full meaning just reading by itself, just reading the verses 31 and 32 in chapter 13 that talk about it. No, you cannot get the full meaning. And I think that it's very ill-advised of you to read the Bible in this way, to take parts of it and decontextualize it and kind of put your own reading into it. No, you have to have the context. It's not a good way to read the Bible. It's a very bad way of reading the Bible. And it should be avoided, because remember that the Bible, from cover to cover, is a continuous story, and so you can't just take parts and chop it up and think that you are understanding it completely, because you're not. So with that out of the way, and that warning about reading the Bible out of the way, we can actually interpret this parable. So let's read the verses again.
31. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field. 32. Though it is the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds come and perch in its branches.
So we have the kingdom of heaven being resembled here, or being symbolized through the mustard seed. So what is he saying? He's saying that the kingdom of heaven is going to start out tiny. It's going to be like put on the earth, and it's going to start out very, very small, and then it's going to grow into the largest plant, and it's going to be a tree. So it's not even going to be a plant anymore. It's going to be a tree. It's going to be the biggest. And that tree is going to be so good, essentially, that the birds, remember the birds are the enemy and evil, and people who oppose the kingdom, are going to make nests in its branches. So there's a lot to break down. We have the seed in the kingdom. Obviously, the kingdom is Christianity because it's talking about the kingdom being spread on earth and it's going to grow. So it's talking about a kingdom growing, and that's Christianity. That's Christ's religion. So this refutes any idea that anybody from certain religions gets who tries to read themselves into the Bible and think that the Bible is about them. It's not about them, because Christ says in other passages, essentially stating that the kingdom of God is his kingdom. So that refutes any other interpretation that people who try to read themselves into the Bible and think that they are part of the Bible, they can't do that with this one. Maybe with other ones they can try, but not this one. So again, we have the mustard seed and we have Christianity. Christianity is the seed. It's going to grow from the tiniest seed to the biggest. And that's what happened. We can historically verify that Christianity started from a tiny little province in Rome and expanded to become the largest religion in the world. So that is what the first part of that is talking about. Now, if we read the rest of
And
this,
planted in his field, 32 though it is the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds come and perch in its branches.
let's explain what this part means. The birds perch in its branches and make nests in there. So Christianity expanded so much and made so much change in the world that its enemies, the birds, remember the birds are the opposition to Christianity. The birds make nests, which means they rest their foundation on Christianity. And this is where you can see Jesus' prophetic genius on display, and you can see that he is very much a prophet of God, and he very much knows these things, and that this parable is a prophecy. Because the enemies of Christianity, a lot of the time, they do base themselves on Christianity, as contradictory as that sounds. Let me explain. So we have a lot of people attacking Christianity in this day and age. We have a lot of atheists who hate Christianity, but here's the thing. A lot of the weapons that they try to use against it, like morality and science and those things, those are things that sprang from Christianity. I mean, science, the modern science, is Christian in nature. It's based on Christian assumptions. As we know, I've covered this in other videos, that the reason science gained so much widespread attention and was done is because Christian scientists wanted to discover things about the creation of God, and so they wanted to discover and find things out. This is just undisputed fact. And morality, oh, where do I even get started? Where do I even get started with this? Morality that people have is very much Christian today. Like, what are things that people value? Well, human rights. We can directly show that those descended and only make sense on the Christian worldview. People are against slavery. Well, we have the first person on record in recorded history was a Christian, Gregory of Nyssa. He's a saint. And he was the first person on record to call for the abolition of slavery. And the slave abolition movement was very much Christian. People say all sorts of things about how women are equal and equality and all those things. That's a concept that directly came out of Christianity because of the whole image of God, male and female doctrine that we have in the Bible. So as you can see, a lot of what the secular atheists value is just based off of Christianity, and Christianity made it possible to get to that point. And so they are making their nest, metaphorically speaking, they are making their nests on the branches, which is what grew out of the tree of Christianity. They are making their nests on it. So they are still enemies of Christianity, but they're using what grew out of Christianity to try to attack Christianity. It's crazy. And then the other interpretation of this that we can have, I mean, this is a double interpretation. We can have both of these at the same time. Is we've had a lot of atheists recently, like Richard Dawkins, say that he wants his country, which is the UK, to remain Christian. There are a lot of atheists who are now realizing that, hey, we need Christianity for a value system. Morality, as I've already explained, has descended. Specifically, our morality that we hold today, modern morality, has descended from Christianity. And what these guys don't realize is that morality needs a religious framework, and it needs the Christian framework to actually exist and have any bearing. But that's a whole different other discussion for a whole different other video. So, when we have these birds that are making their nests, we have people who are trying to weaponize what grew out of Christianity as, against Christianity. And then we have people who want Christianity to stay, so they're metaphorically, again, making their nests in the branch. And again, if you want, actually, not again, but if you want a source for all these claims that I just made, check out the book Dominion by Tom Holland. It's a very readable history of Christianity. Sometimes people think that history books are boring and, I don't want to read those, they suck. But this is very readable because of the narrative format in which he tells truthful history, but it's kind of in a narrative format that might be a little bit easier to get through for some people. It's a great book either way, and you should check it out because all of my assertions have backing in that book, and he is a historian, so he can much better articulate these points and show these connections than I can. So this actually reminds me, I'm talking all this stuff about how the atheists and secularists use the stuff that came out of Christianity to attack it. This reminds me, I was going to make a video about how Christianity is the one religion that people don't actually leave unless it's for a theological reason. Because, and here it ties back to the whole parable with the birds, is people don't ever let go of the nest that they make in Christian morality, in Christian values, in everything Christian. They don't let go of it. And until they let go of it, it can't be properly said that they leave the religion, because they're not going to leave the values behind. They're not going to leave the morals behind. A lot of people will say, Jesus was a good moral teacher. I follow his morality, but not his, claims of divinity, which is a whole other discussion because it doesn't make any sense to do that. I mean, a lot of his teachings have to do with the divine element, but again, that's a whole different other discussion. The point here is that they don't leave the nest that they made in the branches of Christianity, so to speak. And so what Jesus is really saying is this kingdom that I'm going to bring to this earth, that's going to start with my death, is going to extend. It's going to start so small, but then it's going to extend. It's going to become the largest of the plant, and which I guess we could take to mean religion. It's going to become the largest of these religions, and it's going to be so big that even its enemies are going to make their home, which means they're going to make their morality and all the things that they use, even though their enemies are going to weaponize those things and try to attack Christianity. But their nest, their foundation is ultimately going to be in the Christian morality, in the kingdom. And that is exactly what's going on right now. That is exactly what has been happening for the last few years. People are realizing that we need Christianity, and people still to this day, and this is more common, people are weaponizing things that grew out of Christianity. So again, the branches to try to attack it, but they still make their home in the branches of Christianity and the whole moral thing as well. They won't let go of Christian morality, and they try to use that to attack it. They do all these things, and as we can show, this has happened. This has always happened, and it's very prevalent today. So what this means is that this parable was a prophecy, and he knew that this is going to happen in his kingdom. He knew that this is going to happen before any of this actually took place, which is just going to show that this is one of the many prophecies that came true out of the Bible. Out of many that there are many prophecies that came true out of the Bible, but this is one of them for sure. Now, I would like your guys' opinion on this. This is the end of the interpretation. That's all I have to say about this parable. There's not much to say, not much else, unless I want to reiterate what I've already said, which I don't have to, because if you want me to do that, you can just go back and watch this. But I'd like to know what you guys think of this interpretation. I'd like to know if you guys think that I'm crazy and I have no idea, and I can have people in my comments being like, you don't know how to read the Bible. Learn how to read the Bible correctly and all that. If you guys have that kind of criticism for me, I'd love to hear it, because, I'd love to improve my ability to interpret and explain to you guys these Bible passages, because there, a lot of the time, is a deeper meaning that we are not understanding if we just have a surface level reading of the text. So if you guys have that kind of criticism for me, please voice it. If you guys have any suggestions of what else I can interpret, maybe there's some other passage that you would like me to talk about and explain and break down, except Revelation, please don't suggest that. I'm just kidding. I'll try my best eventually, okay? But if you guys have that kind of stuff for me, I would love to hear it. Tell me that in the comments below. Subscribe if you like this kind of content and want to see more, if you found this useful. And I will see you guys in the next video. God bless.